Good evening, everybody. Welcome into the Odd Rhythm Fancy Studios. I'm Jamie. That's Eli. We are here on a Monday night, which is crazy, insane, but we are here on a different day. We told you guys we'll be here to knock out Blake Watson from Memphis Tigers. And yeah, we're going to do a little deep dive on him. And yeah, I think we're just going to mention just a few couple NFL notes. And yeah. But, anyways, welcome in, guys.
We're back. It's Monday. Everybody that's tuning in. You know what you can do? You know what you can do when this stream is over? What you can do tomorrow, maybe Wednesday, maybe the rest of the week, damn week. Got the NFL draft coming up soon. So if you
Yes.
want to crank all the college spotlights we've done into binge it, you want to do it one day, a weekend, whatever. Tonight, put a couple on. Go over. And Jay's got a nice playlist of all the college spotlights from now until, or back in September when we started doing these. You can go check those out on YouTube. Spotify's got obviously all of our episodes previous to this. So got some good stuff over there. Supposedly Apple Podcasts is still a thing. I thought they were going, out of business. So I guess they're up still. So maybe you can go on over there and still listen on that. Google Podcasts, obviously Podbean. So we're a couple of places, and then of course the old Discord. Like I said, it's pretty much DM for fantasy people. So if you have some thoughts and opinions, and or want to give some advice or take some advice from seasoned fantasy guys, Discord's a great place for that. Jay's always over there, and a few of the other people that contribute to the show are over there. So it's always a good time.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I was actually just trying to so Google Play is or not yeah, Google Play, Google Pods or whatever. Yeah. I didn't get an email, but I kind of did some research, and I supposedly I guess, they're giving some people some time to redirect their stuff somewhere else or something like that.
Did
But
they have time before? I think they announced this months ago.
yeah, I don't know. It was, but I was
Maybe.
just from the little bit of it, I was like, well, I might just, delete the little, like go over to, wherever I do my stuff at and just delete that and just be Spotify, Apple and call it good. But there's those other outlets like Podbean and those couple other ones that actually stream our stuff. So I know there was one app I downloaded to check it out, and it actually brought up like all of our shows and everything in there. So I don't remember the app or whatever it is, but yeah, there's an app you can download. I'll have to see if I can find that again. But on there's an app you can download. You can still, all you have to do is subscribe to that one, to our content, and then you can get daily updates or whenever we post when it comes out there on it's some kind of app. But checked it out, kind of cool. But I am like, I won't use it because I have pretty much Apple and Spotify for all my podcast stuff. So, but I mean, if you guys have to, if you guys were Google guys, you might have to come over, get on the Spotify stuff, and you know find our content there. So sorry,
Get
guys.
on board the Ho train. Yeah.
but but other than that, just some quick couple of news headlines here. Really nothing too all that much. I was actually trying to watch a I think it was the ESPN's. They had or yeah, one of those two guys. They were having like a little draft to the path kind of thing, and they were kind of talking about Ben.
Path to the draft.
Yeah, that's what they call it. But anyways, yeah, pretty much their main like scout guy, Keffler or whoever it is, they were actually talking about Ben Sinnott, and I was like, oh yeah, they're just talking about his pros and cons and stuff like that. But I'm like, we already covered him. I like him, so I was like, this little some random stuff. So pretty much, when I'm not like doing this stuff, I'm always trying to find anything sports related stuff. So my mind's always racing about sports, really. What can I do? What can we do better? What kind of things can we put out there? This random stuff.
I was gonna say maybe I could get a pair of glasses, slick back my hair, dye it black, shave the beard here, and then start talking like I know what I'm talking about, like Mel Kiper's been doing for 40 years. Maybe ESPN will hire me. I don't know. They got rid of Todd McShay. Todd McShay was pretty damn good at that stuff, but Mel Kiper must be on his knees for for somebody if you catch my drift. But no, no, a lot of these pundits like I know that's their job to go through all these different players and to I mean we pick stuff from websites and from shows too. I mean we kind of cherry pick ourselves. So we but a lot of these big these big wigs like they're getting to guys that we knew about, guys that we've known about for a couple years or have popped the last few months, the college playoff bowl games, towards the end of the year, you're finding out a lot more about these guys. So yeah, Ben Sinnott's going to be a stud. I saw someplace now where they might have him go in the second round. I mean, he's shooting up boards as he should, as he should.
What?
Yeah. So we like to, we date these things because we have to, because you can come back and say, oh, Out of Rhythm was the first ones to. You're damn right we were. We were the first ones for a lot of these guys before they they reached the national hype level. So and
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. Mel Kiper, I've always thought he was a clown, honestly. But I used to like Todd McShay over there, and there's a couple other guys at ESPN that I used to like, but.
Yeah, it is what it is, where we all are able to get our information. I mean, that's what helps us to put out our content, and, I try to source from at least many other, sites and stuff like that to get my information and whatnot to kinda get a good idea and whatnot, especially stat-wise, targets and stuff like that, and just other things in general, just all that great stuff in one big old space, I guess. Space, I guess we're in a space on YouTube too as well, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah, buddy.
Uh, but, yeah, if you guys can, just give us a like on here, if you guys like our content, please give us a subscribe and hit that bell, 'cause then you know when we actually go live
Ding!
and whatnot, 'cause
Just like
yeah, sometimes we don't know when we go live, someday, life gets busy, and we try to put these out as much as we can with how much work we, both him and I do on a daily week, but, yeah, we try to at least get out 1 episode a week at least for you guys, maybe 2 if you guys are good enough,
yeah, you behave. You get two this week. You're gonna get Blake Watson tonight, stud running back from Memphis, and then, like I said, you behave. Like Jay was saying, you're gonna get two. You're gonna get Bub Means, wide receiver, up next on Wednesday. So, we know the draft's coming up. We want to get a couple more of these guys in before we
Yep,
kind of change gears and kind of go to a different format with college or NFL fantasy. So, at least through the end of April, this is what you can expect from us.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead,
Oh,
Jay.
I was just gonna say, yeah, stay tuned because I will have a draft party here live on YouTube. So
Ooh.
I want to try to get some guests together. So if you're, a content creator or just want to talk some football in general, shoot me out on X on Outer Rhythm Fan. Maybe shoot me a DM out there, like, hey, you want to, because I'll probably posting that here pretty shortly too. So I like to try to get some guys together for that. And tomorrow, if you guys, I'm actually going to be with Fantasy, Fantasy Football RPG. They're doing a rookie mock draft, so I'm going to be with them and 10 other guys. We'll be live tomorrow. I'm probably going to try to live stream that tomorrow. So I'll just put in my links and so stay tuned for that tomorrow if you guys want to watch. And we'll pretty much be talking whoever's in Dynasty. We're gonna talk about pretty much just briefly. It's gotta be pick and why, and it's just gonna be quick 4 rounds. So if you guys want to stay tuned for that tomorrow, that'll be tomorrow. That'll be about 7:30 their time, but Central Time be about 8:30 my time. So stay tuned for that. And then Wednesday we do got Bub Mean, so that'll be at 7 o'clock like normal on Wednesday. So
Got a
and
great calendar rundown there.
yep,
Like I said, draft coming up. Be is that see tonight's Monday. Is it 2 weeks from Thursday or is it 1 week? Is it the 25th or
yeah,
May
25th.
1st?
No,
It is
25th.
25th. Okay, yeah. So that's
Yeah.
coming up. Yeah, so that'll be next Thursday, the 25th.
Yep.
Draft party for sure with Jay. I'll try to see what I can do that for
Yep.
sure with Jay. And
Yep.
then tomorrow night. That's another thing that's questionable for me, but yeah, Jay for sure is going to be doing that draft. So with Mike, so go ahead and be a part of that. If there should be a link somewhere that Jay
Yeah,
provides, if any of you guys.
yeah. Yeah, I'll probably share the link somewhere to their YouTube channel on, Discord or whatever. Maybe I'll probably try to share the link. So one of those two ways. I'll try to share it the other way. If you guys want to listen to me and a bunch of other guys talk about players, you sure may join us. Um, just couple. I'm going to run over the quick news. Just a quick couple guys, and then you can chime in on that, Eli. Pretty much CeeDee Lamb seeking a new contract. Devontae Smith signed 3 years extension with the Eagles. T. Higgins is going to stay a Bengal. Then Devontae Adams pretty much kills any like contract or not any trade rumors or anything like that. And then Brandon Yukin, I don't know if he requested a trade, and it's hard saying up in that. And then we've seen something with the Rashid Rice. Some of the families are trying to sue him. They're going to try to sue him. So, what are your thoughts?
I thought we weren't going to talk about him. No, Rashid Rice, get him out of here. Out of here. Never hear that name unless he's catching 3 touchdowns in a game and he's he scored 40 fantasy points that week or something. I don't want to know this man exists. But I'm glad the families are kind of coming after this guy because he's a clown. Let's go down the list. There's a lot of receivers there. You notice that?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Ayuk. I don't think he wants to leave San Francisco. He just wants to get paid. Like if they paid him, he'd be more than happy to. So I want to be traded because I want money. Which hell, if you want to go to Carolina, they'll pay you. You can go win 4 games every year, Brandon. So if you want to go and go put up shitty stats with Bryce Young, good luck. They'll pay you $27 million there. That's what you're looking for, dude. CeeDee Lamb, I get it. He's kind of the last man standing with Dallas. He's really the only real weapon left in that offense. Because I mean, Jake Ferguson's a good tight end. He's not CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is their best offensive player. Now that Tyron Smith and a lot of the offensive linemen are older or gone now. Like, yeah, there's no doubt. He might even be the best. I mean, it's probably between him and Micah for who's the best player on Dallas, like the whole team. It's CD or Micah. So yeah, I mean, he can get what he's gonna get 30 mil. He's gonna get Tyreek money. He's gonna get somewhere in that neighborhood. And then with what's going on with T. Higgins kind of staying another year on the franchise tag, I think the Bengals are making one more run at it. I know they traded Joe Mixon. I get that, but kind of with their current group, because they're going to have to pay Jamar Chase next year, and he's going to get even more than what CD is getting. And JJ, I mean, I would expect Jamar Chase to kind of reset the market, probably 32, 33 million a year. So that's just my suspicion. And then T. Higgins 2025 will go get paid somewhere. So that's just my initial impressions of all the updated news. And I guess Devontae Smith, I'll comment too quick. 3 years, 75 mil. I think like 50 or 51 of it's guaranteed. So it's pretty much like a 2-year, $50 million contract. Only 2 of it's guaranteed. So I think he's still a young guy. He's been productive. AJ Brown's kind of a diva. So if AJ they insured themselves. So if AJ Brown starts some shit that, hey, Devontae Smith, he's not a great number one, but he can be a number one. You know what I mean? He can be a serviceable number one. So we'll pay him as such. And if, like I said, if AJ Brown starts acting up or wants a trade or doesn't show up or gets hurt, any of those things, I think the Eagles will be just fine.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that kind of covers everything. I think the one other quick note is that it sounds like Nick Chubb is going to take a pay cut so he can stay with the Browns. But I'm sure
I was gonna say that's a damn good thing, because here's a little fun fact. Deshaun Watson, his cap is kicking in next year, so I think you're gonna see a lot. Yeah, if they want to stay on that team and they want to play in Cleveland with Stefanski and what they got going on there, I think a lot more Browns are gonna have to take pay cuts. I think Watson's gonna get I think his money against the cap is like 63 million. And it was only like 19 or 20 this past year. So basically his cap number jumps up by like 43 million next year.
Oh.
So that money's I know they raised the cap. They raised the cap at shit, Jay, but I'm glad Nick Chubb's back. I mean, he's gonna be their feature back. There's no questions. I know they had a couple guys Jerome Ford stepped in. He was solid. He ain't Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
The other kid that we like,
Your
young running
comments?
back.
Pierre Strong.
Yeah, Pierre Strong was solid, but
Yeah.
these guys aren't Nick Chubb, so I'm glad Nick Chubb's back, and the Browns can make a run at it next year. But yeah, I don't think he's the only one that's going to be taking a pay cut, though. I think there's going to be more Browns if they want to
It's
stay on that
very
team.
possible. Very possible for sure. Yeah. It was a couple episodes back, it's one of those things that you mentioned that, all these quarterbacks want to get paid, and it was something. It was kind of one of our YouTube shorts here that I made here, not too long ago. It came down to, all these quarterbacks want money. They want, to be, 50 million a year, yada yada yada. But then, it's going to hurt the offense in the long run with having to get these underrated, wide receivers to help boost up your, like a Jalen Tolbert, to come in and play on your team. These Jalen Tolberts of the world, to actually make up the rest of your rosters.
Hence why we do this stuff. I mean, we could easily be talking, previewing college, kind of getting you guys ready with the the freshmen and sophomores that popped in 2023, getting you ready for some. If you're into fantasy or kind of projecting for the 2025 draft, we could be doing some other thing, or NFL stuff. We could be getting you ready for dynasty. There's other things we could be doing on the channel, but we do a lot of these spotlights, especially for these, like Blake Watson tonight, perfect example. He's projected to be an undrafted free agent. You're going to need to subsidize because of these quarterback contracts. These guys are making $50-55 million, and some of them aren't even worth it. Like Dak Prescott's not worth $55 million. If he's looking to get like a Joe Burrow contract, he ain't worth it. And Dallas still hasn't signed him, which tells you all you need to know. But Tua hasn't been signed. Tells you all you need to know. Like, hey, basically, you go prove it. Dak, you take us to an NFC Championship game, or you win an MVP, or you God forbid, a Super Bowl. We'll give you your money, man. Like you go wrong or right. Or right or wrong, we'll take care of you. Tua, the same thing. Go make a conference championship game, go win an MVP, something, go play in cold weather, actually be able to complete a pass in cold weather. We'll talk. But you can't, some of these guys that are getting these bloated contracts, you can't, Bengals are going to find that out. That's why I think they gave him the franchise tag. They ain't going to give T. Higgins a contract or a second franchise tag. I can guarantee you that. They're going to make one more run at this, and then T. Higgins is gone. He's Splitsville. He'll probably be the starting number 1 or number 2 for the Panthers in 2025 or something. So, yeah. So you can really only have one, I would say one elite, CeeDee Lamb kind of guy, because if you're going to have to pay the quarterback, you're going to have to pay the number 1 receiver. You're going to have to pay a pass rusher. Might have to pay a defensive tackle in a corner, just to kind of piece out the team. You're going to need a lot of these cheap, undrafted second, third running backs. You're going to need a lot of these cheap, maybe undrafted 6th, 7th round number 4 receivers, maybe number 3, 4 receivers. And that's how I think going forward, that's how they're going to piece together. You're going to have one, like elite guy, I guess, a receiver, running back, and then everybody else on the depth chart is going to be various, just kind of pieced together, just various parts. That guy was a free agent on somebody else's roster and he was cut twice. Oh, now he's our backup running back. And we'll see that be kind of the common thing, unless you got a quarterback on a rookie contract.
Yeah,
a lot of these bloated quarterback
kind of
contracts
like your.
It's helping us. It's helping us. I mean, it's helping guys like us that are, because honestly, like, I don't think very many people, and he's a good player, no disrespect to Blake Watson. I don't think very many people would give a shit about Blake Watson if this was 5-10 years ago. But it's like now you should, because this is a guy that, and we'll talk about him here in a few minutes, but it's a guy you're going to know about. You play fantasy, you're going to hear that name, and he's going to kind of cut, and then you won't be blindsided by it. You'll be like, oh shit, I remember hearing about that, and I went and watched some Blake Watson YouTube highlights, or I looked at some of his Memphis games, like, wow, this guy can play. He, if you're a whoever fan, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, I like it. It's I know it's a rant here I'm going on. This will probably end up being like some kind of short or something, my real rant, but yeah, it's good for people to talk about this stuff. It's obviously good for the players, good for the NFL. I mean, it's the healthiest league, best thing on TV right now is the NFL. So I would say you can have one elite guy at per running one running back, one receiver, one quarterback, and then everybody else is just mismatched.
It'd be kind of like your Luke McCaffreys, Xavier Weavers, Bub Memes, Josh Cephas, kind of
Yeah,
like these,
Jay,
these
Luke
guys.
McCaffrey will be Luke McCaffrey will be somebody's number 3 receiver soon.
Yep.
Mark it down. And we haven't done a spotlight on him, but guys like him and a few of the other guys we've mentioned, Javon Baker is going to be probably end up being eventually somebody's number 2. Like he's that good, and he's going to end up being a 5th, 6th round pick. So there's guys coming in this pipeline that are going to be filling these spots because they just can't pay. You can't pay everybody. You can't pay a number 1 receiver $30 million and then pay a number 2 $25. Eagles are going to be in cap hell. I mean, we just talked about Devontae Smith's new contract. I mean, how are you going to pay? That makes me think something's going to happen with AJ Brown, honestly, because you're paying AJ what 25, 27 mil a year. You're paying Devontae 25 mil a year. You're paying Jalen now like 52. I mean, that's over $100 million for 3 players. And then, Saquon's not cheap. Saquon was what, probably 10 million, something like that, 10, 12 million a year. Like these play, yeah, that's half your 4 players for half your cap. I think the cap is like 225 million.
Damn. Yeah, that's half the cap then.
It's just top of my head. I
I'm not sure either.
In front of me anything, but I'm like, that's a shit ton for 4 players. And I know they still have stud defensive, they got a couple studs on defense yet. So I mean, where's this money coming from? I mean, you can only push this money so far back.
Well, you know where this money's coming from, right? It's coming from that tush push.
The brotherly shove, the tush push. Yeah. Fucking Jason Kelsey going on WWE half naked.
Oh, but all right. I think that's
he was good, man. He threw him right into the apron.
Yeah.
But nice good shove.
But yeah, I think that's enough NFL talk there. Like, Eli's little rant,
Yep.
just some overall thoughts, and with all these, quarterbacks wanting money, and it's just going to reflect on how your offense is going to turn out. A lot of these offenses that might be they were high flying offenses that had a lot of yardage. That might dip down a little bit now. With having these average wide receivers now, so that what was up here might be coming down some. So, all right. So everybody,
Jay, it's like I was gonna say it's like chess moves. It's like, okay, well, you got the quarterback now. We get the Aaron Donald defensive tackle, $30 million defensive tackle, the Chris Jones, to kind of counter that. We get you got the 30 million receiver, the 25 mil receiver. Well, we're gonna get a 15, 18 million corner or 20 million corner. Like, so it's just gonna be a chess match. And so yeah, it might affect the offensive numbers, which is how it kind of all ties into fantasy, which is why we're talking about this. So, it's just something to think about. Something, if you're driving or you come across us, you're just, have us on in the background. I mean, it's just something, food for thought.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep. All right, guys. So we're going to jump into some Blake Watson from Memphis Tigers, who they were, I don't know. Did they? I think they were in the ACC this whole time. I don't know if they moved or what, because I didn't really look into that. I know there was a bunch of teams just jumping in and out to different conferences and stuff like that. And
with realignment, you can't tell anymore. They were in Conference USA forever. I mean, that's how, like, growing up religiously watching guys. I remember D'Angelo. Remember D'Angelo Williams? Remember the Panthers stud running back? This would have been like 15 years ago or so. D'Angelo Williams was one of the first Memphis running backs I remember, and they'd have a lot of Conference USA games on ESPN2 back in the day.
Yeah.
So, Memphis. They had Patrick Taylor, who was at the Packers for a couple years. I think the 49ers picked him up. I think he's their 3rd or 4th running back. So, Memphis has had some. I mean, they've had a nice lineage of NFL running backs that have come through. At least made the league. Not McCaffrey level or something like that, but I mean, they've had solid running backs coming through this program. And this guy he's the next in line. Right now, we've been using NFL Draft Buzz. I know Jay's got a couple other places he likes to go, but I use Draft Buzz. It's just a nice average of everything. It kind of blends all the different places, the outlets that'll have mock drafts and in a lot of the later round stuff too, because we're not dealing with, is Drake May going to go 3rd or is he going to go 2nd? He's going to go 4th. We're talking about guys that are fringe getting drafted. So the prospect ranking will be 286 for Blake Watson. He's the number 27 running back. So that I don't know. That just it doesn't mean a lot because I looked at the league. I looked at the depth charts for all 32 teams, and I just from the average, I didn't have a calculator in front of me, but just the averages I got, I think it's between 35 to 40% of running backs that are getting playing time, which would be like one, your 1, 2, 3, RB1, RB2, RB3, somewhere in that range. 35 to 40% of those guys were undrafted free agents. So, pretty close to half the running backs in the league were undrafted free agents. So that doesn't mean anything. Keaton Mitchell last year with the Ravens before he got hurt, he was popping. Raheem Mostert, who made the Pro Bowl last year and had a damn good year with the Dolphins, undrafted free agent. Just go down the list. I mean, there's been a ton of really good players. So just because they have Blake Watson projected to go undrafted doesn't mean that he can't eventually end up in the NFL, get on a practice squad, work his way up, maybe get signed, maybe have a big preseason. Right now, so I would say that the knock initially would, if you look at the size, like he doesn't have prototypical NFL size. He's 5'9", 189 pounds. Some places had him listed a little bit more, but this is per, we had the combine a couple months ago, so this is per the combine numbers. 5'9", 189, and he's 24 years old. He was born in I think October of 99. So to us, I mean, we're older than him, but to NFL guys that are drafting these guys and paying them 6-7 figures, they're like, yeah, it's a little old for what we want for a running back, especially as many carries as he's had between, being at Old Dominion for 4 years, or I think 4. I think he had 4 in a red shirt and then 1 year at Memphis. So he's a little older than you'd like for a running back. Has a great 40 time though. Runs a 4.39. And I would say some of the positives of him before we get into the stats is he's a damn good ball catcher. He catches a lot of screens, and I just think with the right offensive play caller, you get a creative, one of the McVay Shanahan tree guys, LaFleur from the Green Bay or McDaniel from Miami, one of those kind of play callers. Sean Payton with Denver. You get one of these guys, they'll find a way to utilize what he does. If he makes an NFL roster, gets some playing time, get some touches, get some targets, like he's going to work his way up. Because not every running back can do that. A lot of these guys, they're bigger, they're built like Derrick Henry, they have a nice balance of the two. Like McCaffrey's a little bit bigger than this guy, but he can do both. He can, obviously world-class carrier and receiver, but some of the other positives, he's got a good burst through the line, good lateral quickness. So he's a patient runner. You're not going to see it on like a highlight, but if you watch some of his games, some of the bigger games like North Texas last year, I remember that was on TV. A lot of these were obscure games because he was in a smaller conference. We're not talking about Georgia LSU on CBS or something. I mean, a lot of these games were obscure, but if you come across it, very patient runner, instinctive runner. He makes defenders miss. He's not like, I don't know. They had it listed. They list these guys' strengths and weaknesses, and they had one of the weaknesses that he's not a very good athlete. I think that's horseshit. This guy was an All-American track and field guy, when he was at high school in North Carolina. So, I'm sorry, but I don't think you can be a terrible athlete and be an All-American in track and field. I don't think that works hand in hand.
Yeah, I think that they have to kind of put it out something, some kind of weakness out there a little bit. I mean,
Jay, he doesn't have a lot of weaknesses. Like some guys you can be, and you assume the top guy. Like if it's Trey Benson, if it's Corum, Bucky Irving, a guy that's for sure going to get drafted, a second day guy or maybe an early third day guy, they're not going to have too much baggage in their weaknesses, right? This guy he really doesn't have a lot other than he has a lean frame, which I don't think is a bad thing because I think he'd make a great complement running back. I'm not going to ask this guy to be Derrick Henry. He's not going to get the ball 25 times, 102 yards, touchdown. I mean, he did in college. I mean, he can, but his strength in the NFL against these bigger, quicker athletes is be getting him in space and catching balls. Kind of like a smaller, poor man's Alvin Kamara. I didn't quite put him in the comps because Alvin Kamara, when it's all said and done, is going to be a borderline Hall of Fame player. If not a Hall of Fame player. Alvin Kamara has been great for the Saints, but he came to mind of like what you get a creative play caller, what he could do with him. great finisher, great playmaker. There's a lot of stuff I like, but yeah, the weaknesses are he's got a lean frame. He could probably get better at pass blocking, which there and that comes with the size. It comes with the size. Obviously, he's not a big 225-pound bull. That's just picking up these linebackers and shit. So, what are your thoughts so far? And then we can get into stats, or if you want to get into stats, we can jump into that as well. But those are my initial impressions of Blake.
Do you know any other Memphis Tigers offhand that play in the NFL right now?
Do 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 do
Um,
do 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 do. Not
that's
really.
enough.
No,
Oh,
no.
so I guess Kenneth
Uh,
Gainwell, which is
I meant Patrick Taylor. Patrick Taylor. There we go.
yeah, that's one. Calvin Austin III, who's the wide receiver at um
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, he came from there.
Yep.
Antonio Gibson, which is a commander, he came from there. Um, Darrell Henderson and Tony Pollard was a Tiger as well. So kind of interesting. I kind of like, So I
That
think
just
20.
that just elaborate on what I said like tenfold. That was impressive. That is. I mean, go down that list. I just list off a couple guys, but yeah, Darrell Henderson, very productive with the Rams. I know he was cut, but
Yep,
a couple years ago, solid running back. Tony Pollard, especially when he was Zeke's complement, was a damn good running back.
yep,
Yeah, they've had. I mean, it's almost been like an NFL running back factory.
yeah, pretty
Of
much.
guys good enough to make the league, all the way up to really good running backs.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I thought that was just quite interesting because you were talking about like, well, hey, I'm like, well, who are some other, Memphis Tigers that actually that are in NFL right now? So I'm like, well, let's take a look. And I'm like, oh, Antonio Gibson, he's kind of been, he's kind of been flash here and there, been all right, but they have somebody else now. Tony Pollard now. I mean, he's with the Titans now this year. Kenneth Gainwell kind of popped, but not really. He was kind of more, he kind of was a little bit with the Eagles when the running back got hurt. He's kind of
He's
they kind
he's
of had that two-headed monster
he's
here
still
and
on the.
there.
I mean, he's still on the roster though.
Oh yeah,
I
most
mean,
definitely.
Gainwell. I mean, we knock Gainwell all the time, but every year you look, you see 14, you see Gainwell, you're like, oh, he's still on the roster. He's one of those guys. Gibson. Gibson's gonna be, and they can all catch passes. All the guys you listed are all good receiving running backs. Like every last
Yep,
one of them you listed. Gibson's probably the best. He's probably the best receiving running back of all the ones you mentioned. But I mean, these guys they're dual threat, and that's what they have Blake Watson listed as, a multi-role running back. So which
yeah,
sounds
and
right.
that's
I mean, you can
that's
mix
what
and
I was
match
gonna
it.
say too as well. Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say too, and I'll show you some of those stats here in a little bit too. But yeah, no, I was just gonna say, yeah, I see him as a dual threat kind of guy. I was kind of looking at that too as well. The other quick other thing too, he's got that home run speed quick too. You're talking about his vision and stuff like that. He's kind of a patient runner too as well. I know they kind of knock, some of these sites kind of knock his build and stuff like that. But I mean, from what I see, and he can break tackles. He can break tackles off pretty
Yeah.
easy. I mean, I'm sure if he adds a little bit more bulk, I mean, yeah, this guy's gonna be a bulldozer for sure. I mean, I mean, he'll truck over. So he's kind of one of those guys that plays until the whistle's blown. So I mean, he's one of those kind of guys, and I mean, he's totally good in space too as well. I mean, once you get him in the open space, I mean, he's a different animal, dude. I mean, he'll make defenders miss, and that's kind of his uniqueness to him, and
If
we're
he
talking
played
about.
If he was 10 to 15 pounds heavier and played at a bigger school, we'd be talking about a second round guy.
Oh, most
For sure,
definitely.
he would be the first running back taken, or right there with Corum and Benson and those kind of guys.
Oh, most definitely,
So,
and a lot of that
so
too.
the
I
weight
mean,
he can add. He can't do anything about not. I mean, he was at Old Dominion and then transferred to Memphis. Obviously,
yeah,
can't do anything about his school, but the size. I mean, all these guys put on weight. Even
yeah,
skinny ass Devontae Smith. Like all these guys are gonna. JJ was real thin.
yeah,
These guys all put on 10 to 15 pounds when they get to the league. So I mean, right now he's listed at 189. I could easily see his playing weight. Day one next year it being like 5'9", 202, 200.
yeah, yeah, and these are and those are some of the highlights I kind of seen too as well. I mean, he's got that knack for finding the end zone too as well with his speed and with his speed that he has. And then he pretty much I've seen some plays where he kind of he could hide real well, like, behind the line and, find these these small creeks and holes, and he's gone, and you're like, "Where in the hell did he come from?"
That
Next thing
quick,
you know, he
yeah, that quick
Yep.
burst. Yep.
Yep. So next thing you know, you see him bundled up with a bunch of people. Next thing you know, you see him running down the field. You're like, "Whoa, what the hell just happened here?" Yep. But and those are some of the things I've seen as well. But just a little, his build. Once he maybe gets to the NFL, they'll probably bulk him up just a little bit there too as well. But other than that, he's those are most of the things that I've seen from him. Those are a lot of the pros and just the one kind of con. But he actually is there's a couple 5'9" guys in here as well. We talked about Ray Davis. We talked about him. Marshawn Lloyd, we didn't talk about him because I didn't like him much.
USC.
Yep. Bucky Irvin's 5'9", and Cody Schrader is
Okay.
yep. And then Cody Schrader is 5'9" as well. So I mean, we kind of got some guys that are pretty similar in capabilities here.
Absolutely, and all of those guys that you mentioned. Obviously, I'm biased. I like Cody Schrader the most. I think Cody Schrader is going to find his way into being a feature running back, starting feature running back. Some of these other guys might be complimentary guys, but and hey, go back if you want to see our spotlight on Cody Schrader. There's a nice playlist on YouTube. Go over and meander over there and go check that out. So let's see I don't know if Jay's got a graphic for the stats. Sometimes he does. If he brings that up, we can talk about that. While we're waiting, though, I will talk about my comps. So I would say the low end, like his floor, is Jaleel McLaughlin from Denver. Kind of like an undrafted guy, gets some playing time. Maybe as a third running back, because that's kind of what Jaleel is. If you think about it, you got Samaj P. Ryan and you've got Javonte over in Denver, and neither of those guys are great. So I mean, McLaughlin, he might get he might even see more playing time this year because he had a really good rookie year. So and that's a good floor. I mean, you made the league, you got some touches. There were a couple, especially in deeper leagues. There was a couple. I know I picked him up in our 16-man league that me and Jamie do. So in deeper leagues, I guarantee you picked up or used Jaleel McLaughlin at some point last year. He had a really solid rookie year. And so I guess these guys are similar. Like my like middle tier, which is more realistic, where I think he's going to end up. It's not that much of a jump. I think Justice Hill is a little bit better than Jaleel McLaughlin. Justice Hill, if you remember him, remember the revolving door of running backs with Baltimore.
Yeah.
You had. Anybody.
Brother, this guy stinks.
everybody from Melvin Gordon up until Justice Hill to Keaton Mitchell to Gus the Bus. I mean, it's kind of a revolving door there, and they might actually be one of my top 5 teams. The segment coming up next for where Blake Watson's going to end up, but. Justice Hill, because he's productive in spurts when he gets his opportunities, he is productive. So, and I think that's a nice role. I mean, you're a complimentary guy. You're like some good team's number 3 running back. There ain't nothing wrong with that. You're going to see some playing time with as much. I'm thinking too when they add that extra game, Jay. I mean, a lot of these guys that you haven't heard of are going to be starting games, like guys lower on the depth chart, because these feature guys. Whether it be quarterback, receiver, tight end, running back, they're not going to play all 18 games. That's not going to happen. So you're going to, at some point, these guys are going to see some action. I don't know when I would say they vote on it next year, maybe 2026, we get the 18th game. But so it's not that crazy to think about. So I have Justice Hill as his like realistic comp where you could expect to see him like stat wise, fantasy wise, and then his ceiling. Now, and the first 2 guys have similar size, Jaleel and Justice Hill. They're similar size, kind of in that 5'9", 5'8", 5'10" range, in that same weight category, around 195. Kyron Williams is too. He's about 5'9", 195, somewhere like that. But 40 times a little different. But as we know, Kyron Williams is an absolute stud, and his 40 time, and that's why he fell to the 5th round was his 40 time. It wasn't, and he had a productive. He had over 2,000 yard seasons. Not a 2,000, but like 2,000 yard seasons at Notre Dame. So he had 2 really good productive years there. Had he run a faster 40 time, would have been taken higher, obviously, but ended up being a 5th round pick. But Kyron Williams, I think, is his ceiling. I think if you can get up there, be a borderline Pro Bowl running back, like if everything falls right, he gets in the right system. Look at Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert was an undrafted guy, was kind of a, you know, rotation running back. He was a kind of, not really a journeyman because I guess he's only been, at the 49ers and Dolphins, but kind of in that mold of being and Raheem Mostert made his first Pro Bowl, had a damn good season. Kyren Williams, I forget if he made the Pro Bowl or not, but I know Kyren had over 1,100 yards rushing and a bunch receiving, so he probably did. So I mean, you had two really good success stories right there. So I think that would be Blake Watson's ceiling, would be Kyren Williams from the Rams, like if everything goes right.
Yeah, for sure. I guess, I was trying to find other like running backs that were kind of like in the NFL, and I was like, I couldn't really find anything. But I thought he's kind of like a miniature like Aaron Jones with the Packers because
A little bit, yeah.
He doesn't have
size
yeah.
wise. Yep.
Yeah, but he's more because I was looking back more at his stat wise, like receiving wise, and pretty damn similar, with the reception wise throughout throughout the years and whatnot. They're pretty similar. So a good average of 300, 400 yards, receiving, per year is what you could probably kind of give or take on what Watson could put up if he is and finds a team that's suitable for his uniqueness and whatnot. So,
Yep.
and that's what I thought. I'm like, well, the hell, I'm like, this guy kind of seems like him a little bit. So, I mean, not as big as Aaron Jones, but a dimmer down size of similar abilities of Aaron Jones.
Yeah, and Aaron Jones had a similar career at UTEP. His college career before he was drafted by the Packers, and so I mean, yeah, there's it's trying to limit, and I was trying to find it where it was like the sweet spot because he is going to be an undrafted guy. So you have some haters that'll be like, whoa, is he really going to make a roster, guys? Is he really going to do? It's like, no, we believe it. That's why we pick these guys who spotlights. Like we believe in these guys, but trying to find a balance of like, okay, if you're a fantasy owner and hey, I'm paying attention to you, like, why am I taking this guy? Hey, if I have a pick, if I'm in a rookie draft, I'm in dynasty, whatever I'm doing, like, why am I taking Blake Watson? Well, and then we provide the case for it. So, and then you can see his college stats. And then Jay put the graphic up for Old Dominion there next to Memphis. So, anything before 2020. So 2022, 2021, and then the 2019 season were all part of Old Dominion.
Yep.
So you can see his 2021 year that was solid. That was a pretty good year, over 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns. And but as we'd agree, buddy, like his 2023 over 1,100 yards, 14 touchdowns, which is, those are really good running back numbers. But there's been some guys that we've talked about. They'll have like similar rushings, like 14 touchdowns. 12 touchdowns or something great, and then they'll have a couple hundred yards receiving. That's ho-hum. This guy had almost 500 yards receiving.
Yeah,
I mean, that
pretty damn close.
Jay might have a graphic for it. I think he might have a graphic for it, but he was telling me before we started that, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, you don't think, you think that, okay, maybe somebody got to 500 or somebody got to like 600 yards receiving, some college running back, but no, he was number 2. He was number 2 in all of FBS.
Yeah,
which is insane for running back receiving, and he was number 1 of all the guys getting drafted. He's number 1. So if you're looking for, he might be a little bit smaller, but that's going to help your value because you're not having to spend a second round pick on him. You're not having to spend a 4th round pick. You're going to get some damn good value for Blake Watson, and you throw him out there. He can catch 50 balls. Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler was an undrafted free agent. Austin Eckler had up until last year was an absolute stud. Austin Eckler had some damn good years with the Chargers. So there's a whole list of guys that were Aaron Jones. We just talked about him, 5th round. Kyren Williams, 5th round. These guys were all late day 3 guys or undrafted. And these and we're talking about the who's who of the league now, in in terms of fantasy and Pro Bowls, and so yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, it is. A guy like you that happened to just totally drop Kyren Williams in your dynasty league.
You got to keep bringing that up. See, you're one of the haters. See, maybe I did it on purpose. Maybe I was trying to shake up the league a little bit.
I don't know. You're like, oh no, this guy's trash. This guy ain't good. but hell, he could have, and I was telling, and this is all about, we just kind of, Eli just started Dynasty here just a year ago, and I kind of started it and got him into it. And these are the things that, you don't think about when you jump into these Dynasty leagues. You're like, oh, this guy don't have no value. Next thing you know, you just dump him, somebody else picks him up, and then you lost value on, maybe a draft pick for next year, or, a guy that you might need on your team for this year or something, so things like that we don't think about when you're just a guy who just redrafts or just maybe a keepers league. These are things that, a lot of us don't think about ahead of time unless you're in Dynasty.
Well, no, and you make great points. But to finish up the Kyron Williams story, I needed the roster. I needed the roster spot, and hell, there's a lot of guys, that came out in 2022, which is why I'm glad we go so deep into this now, so that you don't have to be an Eli. You don't have to, if you need a roster spot, you're not willing to give up a guy that had over 1,100 yards rushing, for this, you know what I mean? Like Blake Watson could be that guy. So maybe you draft him 2024, like Kyron got hurt, and then maybe 2025, let's say Blake, he has like a couple hundred, like Kyron did. Kyron had a decent rookie year, nothing special. And then 2025, he's putting up 1,200 yards and making the Pro Bowl or something, or winning you your fantasy league. You're like, oh shit, so that doesn't happen to you. So it's a caution. We tell it because it's a cautionary tale. You don't want to be an Eli.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like my man LA Knight says, yeah.
yeah. But yeah. Other than that, I was just gonna say, real quick, is that, as bad as Old Dominion is, like I look back, like the year that he actually had 1,000 some yards, they only won like 2 games, and they lost like every single one, and he was pretty much their star. As bad as Old Dominion was, it's just like, yeah, I mean, I could see why he wanted to transfer,
Hell
try to
yeah.
try to get a different. I mean, they're bad. They were bad. Yeah, and it's not a
Well,
not
this
a
is
good.
Jay. This is running back you. I mean, it really is. Between you and me, we cranked off what 6 or 7 NFL running backs from Memphis.
Yep.
But from 15 years ago till now, like they're just stacked. A bunch of them are still in the league.
Yeah.
I would too. He took probably a 6-figure payday. Got to go to a school that's cranked out NFL running backs. If he had stayed at Old Dominion, we would have never heard of Blake Watson. I don't think he would have been in the UFL. I don't think he would have been in the NFL. He wouldn't have been in the IFL, the Canadian Football League. Never heard of this guy. He would have been selling. He's got a sports management degree he's getting. So I mean, he'd probably be involved in that. He wouldn't be involved in football. So that's what I love about the portal. The portal saves guys like him. It's not just Caleb Williams going from Oklahoma to USC or so and so going to wherever. Like it saves guys like Blake Watson. It saves their football career. So I love it.
Yep, it does. It does. It does. Just quick overview on his 2023 season. Played 13 games, 1,152 yards, 192 carries. Average of 6 yards per rush, which is damn good. 14 touchdowns, which we just mentioned, because the year before, a couple years before, I mean, if you look at what he had there, 8 to 5, then he just totally just jumped up. When once he transferred, he actually just totally jumped up. And then he pretty much had 318 some odd fantasy points. Had some at least 500-yard rushing games, which is good. It just shows that he's talented. He can actually, with his talents, that he can actually get us, guys like us. We want those 100 yards because that gives us those extra fantasy points. But I mean, I know if you think about it, he played other teams too as well. I mean, he played Tulane. He played
The Tulane game was, I think he must have got hurt.
It's possible.
5 carry. I mean, he didn't have anything like that. 5 carries just seems like I didn't see every. I'll be honest, I didn't see every Blake Watson game.
Yeah.
And Tulane's kind of an obscure team, so it.
Yeah. I was just kind of looking here. Yeah, because I had those written down.
5 carries, 13 yards.
Yep. Texas. He had like 169 yards. UAB 125 yards and a touchdown. Boise State, he played them. Boise's actually a pretty good team. So I mean,
Yep.
for him to put up 113 yards and 2 touchdowns against him, that's saying something. And then Navy 169. So those are just, with them being in the ACC, or the AAC. God damn. So they don't play a lot of ranked teams, but there's a lot of talent that does come out of this division. I think that it's just unrated. But just the thing about those games where he actually had those 1,000-yard seasons. He had about 8% target share when he was when it came to receiving side of stuff. He had 47 targets, within those 11 games, good an average about four targets per game in there. So I mean, anytime they got in trouble at Old Dominion, toss him down, check downs to him. So I mean, good average of four. And then that bumped up maybe just a little bit when he moved over to Tigers, 12% share with 60 some odd targets over there. Played 13 games, so maybe, between 4 and 5, targets, in the passing game there. So not too much of a difference, but you can kind of tell how much he was involved in those types of situations.
So I figured it out. It's not Joe Exotic that's the Tiger King. It's not even Joe Burrow that's the Tiger King. It's Blake Watson. Rawr, that's the Tiger King. Look at those. Look at the fantasy. Over 300 PPR fantasy points. That's nuts.
It is. It is to think about it.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know, right? All right. Let's since we're just kind of talking about all that stuff here, you can kind of give a take on what he did in the AAC conference. He was actually number one, 318 some odd points. Some of these other guys, Jermaine Brown, Dean Connors, Robert Henry, just kind of your average guys coming out of this conference. Malachi Hughes now is a guy that to keep your eyes out for, because I had this guy on my fantasy teams last year, and this kid, a freshman kid from Tulane, 1,300 some odd 1,300 some odd rushing yards coming from this kid.
Malachi Hughes. That's
yes.
We're to keep an extra eye on him going forward these next couple years.
Yep, I am totally for sure.
I don't care where you're going to school, Jay. That's a damn good freshman year.
Yeah, it is. That's kind of like, ooh, this kid. And he, so anytime there was any chance that there was a Tulane game on, I'd pop on over and watch this kid. And he helped me out, man. And to actually, he put up some monster yards. He had, he actually played some of the in a little bit in the passing game too as well. So I mean, we'll kind of have to see what he kind of puts up some more, but he kind of a little bit more of that dual threat, I think. Maybe early in his, his early career of a college pro player. Anyways. But you can tell second in that AAC, with 1,152 yards, first for 14 touchdowns there, and then the one at the bottom there is actually receiving yards, 485. So he was first in that category over there. So that gives you kind of an idea of what he did conference wise, and I had to take a look to it as well. He actually did tear up, the Sun Belt when when Old Dominion's in the Sun Belt division, and then the AAC. He was actually in the rushing attempts, rushing yards, rushing touchdowns from scrimmage, and plenty other like categories he was in. So I mean, for him being as small as he is, he made it up in the leaderboards, and put his name somewhere out there to for a lot of people to kind of notice that he notice his playing style.
Absolutely, yeah. Number one in the conference, and you can see he was number 4 overall on all of FBS. That's and we talk about a lot of these guys. We Ollie Gordon, obviously, and the Boise running back. They're both underclassmen. I mean, they'll be back in college next year. But Blake Corum, religiously talked about in all these mock drafts as a second round guy. We did a spotlight on him back in the fall. Ray Davis, just to spotlight on him, a couple months ago?
Yep.
February or so.
Yep.
Blake Watson's right in the mix. He's right in the Blake Corum, only like a point and a half behind him for total fantasy points. And like I said, these guys got talked up, especially Blake Corum. He was on the national championship team. So we've heard a lot of these names. Ollie Gordon's the next big, he's the next Bijan. He's the next Zeke. He's the next guy to hit the league in 2025 and be. So he's right in right in this company, right in this category. So number one in his conference, number 4 overall. So if you have him on your fantasy team, good luck beating you. I didn't know. I mean, I obviously we know Blake Watson and what he did this year, but I didn't even think it was that good. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, for sure. And I, with us doing some of these things, and even Ray Davis and stuff. I guess I wasn't, when I wasn't even paying attention. I'm like, oh shit, I don't even have to hardly make any changes. I'm like Blake Watson right there, ding ding. So it's just, made it, yeah, and you wanted to bring him up, talk about him. Like, I didn't even know it. Like back in my mind, I wasn't even really hardly paying attention all too much. And I'm like, wait, what? No way, dude. This guy is actually like number 4 overall. Fantasy point wise. So just for you guys to understand, like I do some college fantasy football that it is on Fantrax. So all these come from a different source where I can track all, where I track all the fantasy points and whatnot. It makes it easy for, for me to find all the statistics in those categories, so it can kind of give you a good idea for, fantasy wise is if he lands, on a good team, somewhere that if an injury happens, we don't want that to happen, but he's got the talent enough to actually maybe be, a 150 some point guy, maybe if he actually ends up finding a role, or maybe 200-point guy, with the receiving ability. So I mean, these are just some things that he's capable of doing, just even with him being in a smaller division, I mean, look what he put up. I mean, he's up there with Blake Corum, Ray Davis, Ollie Gordon. Ollie Gordon's going to be out, in 2025. So I mean, that's saying a lot about his talents, even though a lot of people are ranking him a lot, down farther, talent wise. But I mean, this guy's underrated. And then quickly, 28th, with 1,000 some odd rushing, 15th with 14 touchdowns, and 2nd overall in the receiving category. So there's only one guy better than him.
And that's going to be his calling card in the NFL. We said earlier in the show, this is going to be his calling card is that receiving game. He's going to be the complimentary back that's catching, that's catching whatever 50 balls, maybe 500, 400 yards, 500 yards, just 6 yards here, death by 1,000 cuts. 6 yards here, 4 yards here, 10 yards here. Might break, might catch, swing pass, take it 40 yards. Like that's going to be his bread and butter. But like I said, it's nice to know that he's a multi-role. Like he can run it between the tackles if he has to, and if he bulks up a little bit, he will be able to, and he could be a feature guy. I mean, he's very underrated. Like Jay was saying, like he's not that far off, and then you've got yourself a hidden gem. Yeah, one of these guys, in fantasy, absolutely. Dynasty, absolutely. No questions asked. You invest in him. You find a place on your roster. And then there's the list of receiving running backs that Jay just put up too. Like a lot of the guys you just mentioned.
Yeah, they are. And the guy from the Boise State, Gently, Ashton, and he was a high guy. I think he had 1,000 some odd yards rushing. He was pretty close behind Ollie Gordon down there. Those two guys were pretty much the two heavy hitters. But yeah, I mean, 569 odd receiving yards. Blake Watson almost nearly 500 some odd there, and you can kind of see, Bucky Irvin, next guy. He was good in that receiving game. We talked about Ray Davis a little bit. He had a little bit in there, but he had 7 touchdowns up in that area. So you can kind of see the 3 guys that could be potential guys that could play a part in the receiving game pretty heavily.
Yeah, you know what? It's a good time for
it. I don't know.
Let there be light.
Oh,
let there be light. Here we go. Yeah, it's getting about that time. We're almost an hour into this bad boy.
Yeah.
We brought you some great. I mean, we've given you everything known to man, stat wise, and where he stacks up against the other college guys, the other guys getting drafted, running back wise, and kind of what to expect from him. Now, let's give you the 5 teams here on the bottom where I think his most likely landing spots, and I put Denver at number 1 because I've read reports, heard reports And, he's not on ESPN. Like I said, they talk about the same fucking 7-8 guys. It gets old. They talk about the same guys. Here's a little fun fact. There's going to be a couple busts in there. One, two, maybe three of those quarterbacks that they're talking a lot about. I think J.J. McCarthy's going to be a bust. Yeah, I said it. But that's all they talk about. They talk about the 4 or 5 quarterbacks, maybe, Joe Alt, the offensive tackle, a couple of the receivers, Neighbors, Harrison Jr. They talk about the same fucking guys. It gets old. So it's not like they're like, oh, Blake Watson watch, on ESPN or CBS Sports or whatever. But talk to the Broncos. He fits because of Sean Payton, Sean Payton's history with Alvin Kamara. I mean, what he did over in New Orleans, it would make sense. I know they have a couple guys similar. I just talked about Jaleel McLaughlin. And then obviously you've got, kind of a well-rounded running back in P. Ryan, who's above him on the depth chart, and obviously Javonte Williams. I don't trust Devontae's health. P. Ryan is solid, not great. Jaleel McLaughlin is a guy, I like, but I mean, you could jump him on the depth chart. This is a place that he plays his cards right. He could, he could get a huge role in this offense. Just saying. Denver, I think Denver's a great spot for him. And I'll see what Jay's thoughts are after I. Do you want to wait till all 5 teams are done, or do you want to do it per team? If you want to give any thoughts,
it won't matter too quick. Yeah, it won't matter.
Yeah. If you have any thoughts on Denver at 1, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of scared too with Javonte Williams. He's 23. Jalen McLaughlin, he's only 23 too, and we saw his spurts with Denver too as well, with him kind of coming out of the spotlight, and he was actually an FCS guy. Just unknown. Next thing you know, just boom, out of nowhere. We actually have we talked about him a little bit too as well, just coming out of nowhere.
Yep.
He's mostly he could even better. I think he'd fit in. Perrine, Sammy, he's kind of washed. So they need to get some good talent up in there, and that's my opinion.
Yeah, and they might end up taking. And like I said, undrafted free agent, he can go anywhere. Usually when we do like the pick, like, pick 200, pick 112. Like, I didn't put a pick beside this because he can go to any team. And that's the nice thing. If Denver wants to take a running back in the 3rd round, they can. If they want to take bring in Blake Watson after the fact, they can do that. But I just think this would be a great landing spot. They're weak at running back. That's probably one of the weaknesses of the team. Number 2, Blake Watson to Philly. Another decent spot. You got Saquon Barkley there, but I mean, does anybody really trust Saquon's health? I mean, have we ever? I mean, when he's out there, the guy's probably top 5-6 running back. Absolutely, but production wise. But and after that, I mean, we were kind of talking some smack about Kenneth Gainwell, some guy named Lou Nichols. I don't know who the hell Lou Nichols. That sounds like a hockey coach or something. Lou Nichols, Red Wings coach. Yeah, so after Saquon, I mean, these guys, you can beat out Gainwell, you can beat out Nichols. What do you think about him possibly going to the Eagles? As an undrafted guy.
Yeah, I think they had Tyron Davis Price, who was actually with the Niners too at one time.
The 49ers cut him, didn't
they? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because I remember him being on their depth chart, and I don't think we really seen a whole lot from him. So I mean, he's just as tall as Kenneth Gainwell. I mean, Barkley. Yeah, I know we're kind of like, do we trust him? But and it's funny to say. I mean, look what the Eagles did with some of these running backs. I mean, look at what Miles Sanders is now with the Panthers. Nothing.
Yeah, DeAndre Swift. It struck midnight. He's gonna come back to his Detroit form. With is it the Bears that have him?
Yep.
Yeah. So good luck with that. That Eagles offensive line could have made me and you look good at running back. So And I don't think they give a shit about. I mean, they had DeAndre Swift for what, a year?
Yeah, only a year.
Miles Sanders, I think they have a little bit longer. But I mean, the Eagles don't. If he's 24, if he's 25 years old during the playing year next year, and he somehow makes the team and is getting a role, ends up as maybe the RB2 or 3 or something, they're not going to hold that against him. These running backs don't have long careers, anyways. So what if he's 24, 25 years old? If that's one of the knocks on him, other than his size, is his age, I don't give a shit. He won't be in the league 10 years. And this will probably be, a 5-6 year guy, which most of them are. There's nothing wrong with that. There are a bunch of running backs that we remember that had, productive careers and great fantasy numbers that only had 5-6 year careers. That's fine. So Eagles especially, they don't discriminate. They'll bring him in. That's why I thought it'd be a a good spot for him there. Number 3, just for the system, because like kind of with Sean Payton in Denver, what he did for Kamara and with the Saints, and Jaleel McLaughlin, obviously, kind of to a lesser extent last year. I think the 49ers, and I'll lump in the Dolphins too. We'll do 3 and 4 together because they're kind of the same mindset, same kind of coaching philosophy, same what they can do with the running backs. Obviously, they trade them. Jeff Wilson was with one, now he's with the other. Raheem Mostert was with one, now with the other. So they kind of just trade running backs back and forth. But similar situations, I think he'd thrive in either of them. And in Miami's case, like I said, that they're in cap hell, so they got to get cheap labor. I know A-Chain going into his second year, but Mostert, I'm not sure what's left on his contract, but I'm assuming after last year he's going to want money. You can't pay him. I mean, he had one good productive year, and other than that, he's been a journeyman guy. So Dolphin, but I thought the San Francisco 49ers might be more likely because they kind of have a little bit weaker depth chart. I put him at 3. Elijah Mitchell, he's solid when he gets out there. Elijah Mitchell kind of reminds me of like a Khalil Herbert. Like when he plays, he's solid, but not quite a feature guy. Obviously, you got CMC, but CMC's had the injury history. I know he's kind of put that to bed the last couple of years, but I don't. You get enough of a reputation like with Barkley, and it's like I never fully 100% trust CMC. I know he's had a couple healthy years, never 100% sold that he's going to stay healthy. So, and then Patrick Taylor, I think is their third running back, or Jordan Mason, one of those two. I think he can beat either of those guys out. So I think with 49ers, he could be. What do you think about him being maybe their RB3 if he makes the team?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Elijah Mitchell, he's kind of here and there. I mean, plays all right. But with the many running backs they got, if Christian goes down, then it's going to kind of be a platoon of which guys do we go with next, and I think he could totally beat out Patrick, Taylor, and then he could be like a number 2 behind Elijah Mitchell, So I mean, he just a better, younger version of him.
Absolutely, and these, like we always say, cheap labor. And these both teams are similar. Like Jay was saying, it's a platoon. That's really what it is. It's like, all right, if our feature guy is out, it's like pick a random guy between 2 and 5 on the depth chart. Okay, you're getting you're getting 15 carries this week. Right,
and you can say it's pretty similar with the the Dolphins. They got a platoon of running backs. So I mean, it's pretty much when one goes down, okay, who's the next 2 guys coming up? And you got Mustard, Jeff Wilson. Both those guys were ex-freaking 49ers. So I mean, the guy that kind of came out of the blue, the rookie last year, A-Chain. So I mean. So I mean, A-Chain might be the guy there now, and Wilson and Mustard, they're kind of, Mustard is 32. Jeff Wilson is damn near close to being 32. So I mean, they'll have to sooner or later. I'm sure they're gonna have to go a little bit younger, when it comes to the running back core.
Absolutely. And Elijah Mitchell was just hurt last year. He's been, I think both years he's been in the league, he's been hurt. So at some point, so he doesn't have a great track record either. This is a place you could come in. You stay healthy, you get on Kyle Shanahan's good side, boom, and you just have yourself a steal with where his draft value, where his ADP is going to be. So, and then number 5, just with their history, they have a good track record of bringing in cheap, undrafted guys that, or even that stupid Melvin Ingram or Melvin Gordon came in off the street last year. He's probably selling insurance. Came in off the street, made the Ravens roster, was, didn't do anything crazy, but he played a couple games, got a couple touches or whatever. So, I mean, they take just about anybody. Ravens don't discriminate. Right now, you got Derrick Henry as the feature guy. I'd say he's got one more Derrick Henry kind of year left in him. They could, and if they do, they'll make a Super Bowl run because, we remember how good Derrick Henry was. But Keaton Mitchell, the rookie undrafted guy, came out of nowhere last year. I think he solidified a number 2. I mean, he did enough. I mean, he popped. And a number 3 guy on the depth chart, Justice Hill, because Gus the Bus is out of the way. You ain't got to worry about him anymore. Justice Hill is the 3rd running back. I think he beat out Justice Hill. Justice Hill, he's going into his 6th year. So I mean, he's getting up there. He's not anything special. I think Keaton Mitchell's got a higher upside, and obviously Derrick Henry coming to Baltimore, and with the way their running backs get hurt, just with the track record the last 5 years, you're going to find some playing time eventually. What do you think about him and the Ravens being the 5th team?
Yeah, I was just gonna look up at Keith Mitchell here. I just wanted to see what he did. I was gonna look at his college career quick, because I was just kinda wondering what he did in a receiving game, and, um, because I was that's what I was kinda curious about. Because I know he played pretty well in the receiving game as well.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, just kind of yeah. If Keaton did, yeah, Jay's looking that up. So if Keaton did get hurt, could a guy like Blake Watson kind of fit that role seamlessly? Be the undrafted, be 2024's Keaton Mitchell, and catch those same balls and break off 60-yard runs.
yeah,
He's not quite he didn't have quite the speed. I mean, he's fast. Blake Watson, he doesn't have quite the speed Keaton Mitchell has. I mean, Keaton Mitchell's a burner. He's like a flat 4.3. I mean,
yeah, he's a monster for sure, and we talked about him quite a bit too as well when we were, throughout the last year, and we were
yep.
talking about him quite a bit. So yeah, he actually had his last 2 years, he was a 1,000-yard rusher, an average almost 300 yards, in the receiving game. So I mean, that's kind of pretty dang close of what Ray Davis done and whatnot. So I mean, he's does a little bit in that receiving game too as well, and which is a good thing. So I mean, having Blake Watson and a Keith Mitchell in there, that I mean, that just makes more weapons for Lamar
For
Jackson.
Lamar.
Yeah, for him to actually throw the ball to. So I mean, it's not a bad fit at all. Justice Hill, he's kind of, you mentioned he's kind of getting up
That's
there
why I
and
use him as a
whatnot.
comp. That's why I use him as a comp. Well, they're similar size. It's like, okay, this guy
Yeah.
is, he's got 5 less seasons in the NFL. He's cheaper. Let's just move off Justice Hill. Like, I mean, I wouldn't be. Would you be surprised if Justice Hill was one of the guys cut from the 53-man roster in August or something, and a guy like Blake Watson replaced him? I wouldn't. And you
Yeah.
roll in with Keaton Mitchell, Blake Watson, and Derrick Henry as your running back room. I like that a lot. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm sure they're gonna
go
have
ahead.
to. I mean, especially with, maybe some cap space and stuff like that. I'm sure sooner or later, so they're gonna have to probably end up having to cut some guys sooner or later. I mean, might be their only and one time that the Ravens actually trying to get their crap together, even though they almost made it last year, and try to do this once again. But I know it's hard. It's
Same
hard.
song and dance.
Yeah, I think the only other thing they'll have to do is try to get some better wide receivers for sure, because they're not going to do it with Bateman, Aguilar, Scotty Washington, Tyler Tyler Wallace. So I mean they got Zay Flowers there, but I mean they don't have much there.
Zay needs some help.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know. Honestly, Jay, and this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I don't know why the hell they're not on the phone with A.J. Brown. If A.J. Brown is unhappy in Philly, why the hell the Ravens aren't on the phone? Like, what do you want? Because if they get A.J. Brown, they ain't stopping. They might go undefeated. If Lamar stays healthy, they get A.J. Brown, they might run the table and win the Super Bowl. That's how good that team could be.
I believe it. This might be their one and only last opportunity to actually make do it all over again and try to get into the Super Bowl this year. So
Yeah.
those are my thoughts. But all right, everybody. I think that kind of covers our Blake Watson. We gave you quite a bit of information on him. 5 teams, just kind of a breakdown of the roster where he could probably fit in. Yeah, I think that kind of covers everything. We gave you quite a bit. I don't know if there's anything else you want to mention real quick, and then we'll get the heck up out of here.
We'll recap what's kind of coming up the next week and a half here. We said at the beginning of the show, but if you missed it, or if this ends up being just the portion of the show that you see, it's a short or something. So Jay's doing a draft tomorrow night with Mike. So it'll be around 8:30 Central Time. He might have the link there, so if you want to join in on that, that's not. I don't think that's going to be streamed or anything, but that's going to just be.
I think it'll be streamed tomorrow.
It will. Okay. It will. Okay. It will be streamed.
Yeah.
So you might be able to. If you don't want to participate, maybe you can watch it. Just be a part of the whole experience and kind of see how it goes on. If you're new to it, just kind of watch what guys with more experience, like what they're up to. So that'll be tomorrow night, 8:30. About similar time Wednesday night. About 7 our time, a little after 7, give or take.
Yep.
Our time Wednesday, we'll do Bub Means. He's another one of these guys on the fringe is going to be drafted. Where is he going to be undrafted? Is he going to be a free agent? Is what teams are looking at him possibly. So Bub Means we'll be doing Wednesday, and then into next week we've yet to decide on a player quite yet, or two possibly. And then Thursday we will be. I'll try to make that happen myself. I'll try to get in on that. I don't think I'll be able to do tomorrow night, but I'll try to do the draft special next Thursday with Jamie. That'd be the 25th. So would love if you spread the word. If you want to have a little draft party. Some people go to bars. Some people they like it. They get pizza. They sit in the house. They like to see who their team's going to take. Well, if you want, you kind of want a fantasy perspective on it. Jay will give that to you. And like I said, I'll try to make it as well, and you get both our perspectives. We'll try to get some other guys in the in the fantasy community. Some of the heavy hitters if they want to join us, and it's kind of get our reactions and how it applies to fantasy. If Marvin Harrison is that Kyler's new target, does that make Kyler the 15th best fantasy quarterback and bump him up to maybe the 9th or 10th best fantasy quarterback? So it's just it's variables like that, and you'll see our live reactions. So that's what's coming up the next 10 days or so.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and make sure our Discord link is actually below, and along with mine and Eli's links to our X as well. So those are all down there. So if you want to find me, I'm over there at Outer Rhythm Fan, and Eli's is down there as well. So I think that kind of covers everything. So I think we're gonna skeet on out of here. You guys have yourself a nice, wonderful Monday night. And then we'll see you guys back here Wednesday. So from Outer Rhythm, I'm Jamie. That's Eli. We're gonna get up out of here. Later, guys.